Hello, everyone that's joining. Welcome to the Digital Care Hub BSPC webinar. We're going to give it a couple of minutes for everyone to join, and then we'll get started. For those that have just joined, we're just waiting a couple of minutes for everyone to join the webinar, and then we'll get started. Okay, I think I'm going to start. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the DSPT In-Depth series. Today, we're going to cover the data security section of the DSPT. My name is Marta. I work for Digital Care Hub, and I work in the Better Security, Better Care program, where we offer you free support to complete your DSPT. So today, the webinar, as I said, will be covering the data security section of the DSPT. This includes data breaches and business continuity plans. All attendees are on mute and you can't be seen, so don't worry about that. We please ask you that if you have any questions, use the Q&A function to ask these questions and not the chat, so that way we can manage and answer your questions really well. If you're on your phone, please tap on the screen and to the controls button and on more, and then you'll see the Q&A section. Questions that we can't answer, we'll come back to you over email, so you can drop your email on the question, and we'll email you back. But hopefully we should be able to cover everything. This webinar will not last any longer than 1 hour, and it is being recorded, but you can't be seen, just to remind you, and you'll get access to the recording and all the slides with all the links from the presentation. So what we're going to cover today? We are going to cover paper records and physical controls for these, data breaches and what are they, how to identify them, and how to report them through the DSPT system, business continuity plans, and then we'll have a little bit of time for questions. So just to get started, I would like to launch this poll just to learn who's in the room and where you're up to with your DSPT. So let me just relaunch it. There you go. It should have come up on your screen. If you could just complete that, and then we can get an idea of who's attending. Okay. Thanks, everyone. Seems like most of you have already registered with the DSPT, which is great. And most of you have already started completing, which is really good. And we have a good mix of single sites and multi-sites, right? Right. So first part, paper records and physical controls. I'm going to hand over to John and Chris, who will be covering this section.
Hi there, everybody. My name is John Hodson. I work on the DSPT team at NHS England. Hopefully you can see my slides. Mark, you give me a big thumbs up if you can. That'd be great, or not that great, thank you. So I'll talk you through a few things today. So first of all, about paper records and physical control. The toolkit covers, it's not just about IT and cyber, it's also about your paper records and physical controls as well. With your paper records, you might well take them out of the building, take them off site, go to people's houses with them, and leaving them in cars whilst you go between. And that can bring some elements of risks of the management of those paper records in. So you just need to make sure that you've thought about that. So you've got your locks in. When you leave them in your car, you've got them locked in your boot. You've got key number things to get to different parts of your building. You've got within your procedures about clear desks, and really just all those sorts of sensible things. And really, when you're thinking, right, where do I start? Have a walk into your room. Think about the physical controls. How easy would it be to get in and get an information, or for people just to lose it and to blow out the window, etc. For those. So leading on from that, and what we're going to look at in quite a bit of depth, I think, today, is around data breaches. So what are data breaches? So broadly, a data breach is where information that we hold, create, or share is compromised. And it could be an accident, it could be done maliciously, but and it covers three main different ways that we talk about a breach of confidentiality, where somebody gains access to information that they shouldn't have. Again, that can be on paper, that can be via the computer. Integrity, where we need to know that the information that we have is correct. So the correct record is written about a service user and it was created by the right person. So nobody can come in and amend what's been written in their record. And also about availability. And this is for the data that you need to be able to, run your service, that you can access it. Obviously, we had a significant incident with the advanced system earlier this year, and that really brought home to everybody how big of an impact not being able to access a system can have. So yeah, and if you haven't got access to it, then that is a breach. So what happens if you do a breach? Well, you've got to report them. If you think it's a crime, you think someone's broken into your service headquarters and has stolen the server, you need to contact the police. If someone's been injured or you've got an intruder on site, obviously dial 999. And also, and internally, there's some paperwork to complete. You might have a data security incident report form. Get that filled in, get all the information collected properly, and handed over to the right person within your organisation. And that might be your manager, your service manager, whoever plays that role, and then get that over to them. They might start looking into it a bit further, but notify as soon as possible on that. I'm going to hand over to my colleague Chris now, who's actually going to show you how you record that and how that's recorded on the Data Security and Protection Toolkit for that.
Okay. So you can hopefully see the assessment screen for this organisation in the demo toolkit. Is that coming through all right, John? Yeah, great. So this will be the screen you'll be familiar with when you first open a toolkit and see the assessment screen. So to report a data breach, we're going to select report an incident up here. That's only for users of the toolkit who have the admin role. So if you don't see that there, contact the organization admin to get added as an administrator to report an incident. And you'll see here some text that describes what you're going to do next. So it's worth having a read of this. And note that data breaches must be reported within 72 hours of being discovered. And on the screen as well, you'll see some reported incidents and some unreported incidents. These are incidents in draft form that haven't been submitted yet. Okay. So the purpose of this tool is to report and notify the appropriate people about the incident and to log it with them. It's not for incident management, so you can't edit an incident once it's reported. If the ICO or the Department of Health and Social Care need an update on an incident, then they'll contact you directly. Let's report an incident now. Now you'll see the so some basic questions about what's happened on the next page. So in our example, we're going to we find that there is a missing bag of confidential waste that was last seen on Sunday. This is normally kept in a locked cupboard, but after not being able to find it and speaking with staff and cleaners, we can't find it, and we suspect that it's lost. And then there's how did you find out? So that is oops, that's the same. Find the right text. Yeah, so our receptionist reported it on Monday morning. The bag wasn't where it should be, so spoken to staff on Monday evening, and then we reported it missing to the manager, and then the manager couldn't find it as well, declared it missing on Tuesday, today. So when did you become aware of the incident? So this describes when the organisation became aware of the incident. So in our example, that's when the receptionist reported it missing on Monday the 18th. Now you enter an hour and a minute there, or just the hour, and the minute will complete. So was this incident caused by a problem with the network or an information system? In our example, no, because it's a missing bag of paper waste. You could also select don't know if you're at that early stage of investigation. There might be a situation where you might not know, but in our example, we can select no. A local ID for the incident, this is an optional field. You don't need to enter this if your organisation has had a couple of incidents that are similar and you want need something to distinguish them. You might enter a local ID there, but it's not required. So when did the incident start? We can select here that that we're not sure. But in our case, we do know, we're pretty certain that the data must have been lost on that Sunday. So yeah, we can put the Sunday. We can put the Sunday evening. Is the incident still ongoing? Yes, it is. Bag still missing. And we get to have the data subjects been informed. So we can select no, but is planned if we were at that stage of the investigation, but we probably best to select no here, and we need a reason, so it's still under investigation. Does the incident impact across a national border? Now, this might be relevant if you're on the border of England. So yeah, the national borders are defined as even down to the Welsh and Scottish borders. So if you had service users that were over the border in Scotland, for example, you might select yes, but the incident, no for us. Have you informed the police? Pretty straightforward. We have not, but you could always select not yet to be confirmed if you don't know. And have you informed any other regulatory bodies about this incident? So in our case, no. And we've got, is there any media coverage of the incident that you're aware of? This is just to provide the organisations that you're reporting it to with a bit of an advance warning that there might be media interest, but in our case, it's no. And it's just if you're aware of, so don't go scouring any sites or anything. It's just a quick understanding. Okay, now any actions you've taken place or planned. So it's what you're doing about it, or what you plan to do next. So we're going to investigate what might have been in the bag and speak to contractors who might have been there over the weekend and check the normal waste bin, see if it's been misplaced there, and then check CCTV and maybe inform the owner of the care home. So how many citizens are affected? So this is citizens affected in the widest sense. So might be service users or staff or other people. In our situation, the section of the care home or that was served by that confidential waste bin at 15 beds, we're going to put 15 there. And who is affected? We think it's service users at this point. And we are just moving on to the next page. Let's Try this again. Okay. Okay, so now we come to the two questions that determine where the incident gets reported to. What is the likelihood that citizens' rights have been affected? So this will depend on what we believe was in the bag, things like if it included service users' details and maybe of their medication, of their maybe financial details, or perhaps details of empty addresses that might be useful to thieves. That should push this up into maybe into the highly likely. In our case, we think that the bag did contain some full personal details about service users and possibly and we think it contained financial details as well. So that's going to push it up into the highly likely likelihood in our example here. Things that might be not occurred in this might be, if we knew that bag contained maybe overflow normal waste, or there were just like maybe excess of what should have gone in the black bin, then that might be not occurred. Not likely, maybe something if it just had just the first names of service users that might have attended a keep fit class, for example. That would be something not likely. Something that might push it up into likely if it was full personal details of service users. And occurred is something that we know has already happened. So this could be that where we know money has been stolen from a service user because of the data that's contained in that confidential waste bag. So yeah, in our situation, we're selecting highly likely here, and the severity of the adverse effect. So in our example here, because there was data in that bag which could potentially cause a financial detriment, then we can put potentially pain and suffering or financial loss here. Some of the other options might be appropriate if there was something else in the bag, but that's what we're selecting here. Okay, so you want to get to now is a check your answer screen. So you can check any answers and go back in and change something here. And change any answer you've got. There will be an extra question to answer here if the date from the report is over 72 hours from the date that you became aware. You'll get an extra question to report the reason for this delay. That's something to be aware of. And yeah, there is just got to ensure that there's no personal data, including the details of incidents. So we haven't identified anyone in our report here. We've just said the receptionist, the manager. So that's we've done that correctly there. So then we can report incident, and you can see that incident's reported and gone to the ICO, Department of Health and Social Care, and NHS England, and you get a reference as well. That reference is just for in the Toolkit system. It won't be recognised by any of those organisations. Something to note is the grid, the breach assessment grid. This is included in the incident reporting guidance. So in our situation, that likelihood was 3 was likely, and the severity was serious. So it got 12 on that grid. That's why it got reported to those to that group of people. Anything over a 2 will get reported further. A 2 on the likelihood, that is, and then the selection you make depends on where it will go. Okay, so that ends the demonstration of the incident process. So back to you, John.
Brilliant, thanks, Chris. Yeah, so hopefully it's in there as we go through the process then of reporting a data breach. It asks you quite a lot of questions, asks you for quite a bit of detail around what's happened. But the idea with that is they've asked you those questions, you send that information off. They shouldn't need to come back from the ICO and ask you lots of further questions, because that gives them everything that they need to do it. That list of questions has been developed with the Information Commissioner's Office so that to make sure that they've got what they need in that scenario. And you know, it should walk you through those things. So we've talked about what to do if the worst happens and if you have a breach. We can talk briefly around how you prevent that, and you do it. And the key thing that you can do to prevent data breaches happening is training. You know, we say within quite often say within cyber, you know, that sort of people are the weakest link and also the strongest weapon in preventing a sort of cybersecurity attack. Same exactly apply with paper records and others. You know, people listening to the training. Nearly all of your staff should have done their training within last year. We've developed with Digital Care Hub an e-learning training which is specifically for adult social care, and we'll take you through on those. And getting people through and knowing the things to look out for, what to do, is one of the best ways to do that. We split that training up into chunks. We've all been on long e-learning training, and nobody thanks you for it. And obviously, I think cyber and information governance is the most important and exciting thing in the world, but seemingly not everybody shares my view on that. So we've chunked it up into small, bite-sized chunks. People can do them in bits, or you can do them in a section in four together. And you know, you can work your way through that. If you are running a social care organisation or a chain of them, and you've got your own learning management system, let us know, and we can give you access to a copy of e-learning so you can incorporate it into there. And there's a link through to that e-learning system that is there that you'll be able to get when you get into the slides. So in terms of that data breach, so you know, if you do have a breach, think about what's happened, you know, what you did, what you've done. You've got to follow it up. Can you learn from it? Was it a failure of process? Was there a gap in the current process for what we said? And in that example, we talked about confidential waste. You know, was it identified where the confidential waste should be? Did everybody know? Had they been trained with that? Was it someone had just put it in the wrong place, or does nobody know where it should be? You know, things like that. What can you learn from your processes? And you can reinforce that in your training. You know, some of the awareness activities that you might do, there might be a little poster that says confidential waste here, or, you know, a thing on the back of the door saying, please close the door when you put the confidential waste away. And you can pick that up in your training, in your supervision of your staff. When you go through your toolkit every year, which so many of you are doing in social care, which is brilliant, make sure you check your answers, look at your policies, look at your information asset registers, record of process and activity, work through that checklist if you're doing when you're doing your audits and your spot checks, and that can hopefully help you find things like the incident that Chris described, where we'd lost a bag of confidential waste. You know, that people sort of understand what they should be doing and have gone through that. Yeah, have a look at that checklist. It's been designed specifically for you, so in social care. So yeah, it should hopefully be relevant and give you a real base of knowing sort of where to start. And if you've done all that and you're all happy with it, you know, you won't go far wrong on that. Okay, I'm going to hand you over to Fiona now. I was going to talk a bit about business continuity plans.
Thanks, John. Right, I'm just going to share my slides, which hopefully, 2 seconds, you'll be able to see. Can everyone see that? Yeah, I'm getting a thumbs up. Okay, that's a good start. Right, jiggle that around so I can see. Okay, so we're going to have a little think about business continuity plans, as John said. And basically, it's a bit terrifying, isn't it, to know how to keep information safe, particularly when it's in digital format. I certainly was that person. I think I've learned a lot since I've been involved in this role. But I do appreciate, as clinicians, service leads, it can feel a bit like the dark art. And that's why doing the DSPT is so important, because it helps you keep the information safe. Sadly, however, data breaches and cyber attacks do still happen. And I think that's just the crux of it. With everything we do, we take an element of risk. And, you don't need to look too far into the press, probably to see examples of data breaches within the sector. Sadly, cyber criminals are often ahead of the game and find a way in. But like all the risks that we take within the sector, there is a way of mitigating that risk. And that's not doing things digitally, but it's about having a plan in place so that if the worst happens and there is a data breach or a cyber attack, you can still provide safe care. Same as you would for probably lots of other scenarios. I'm guessing most people on the call have a business continuity plan, probably covers all sorts of eventualities. It might not cover data and cybersecurity. And hopefully we can get you thinking about why that's really important. Maybe go away and check, make sure that you've got it, make sure it's robust, and you can hopefully save a lot of heartache should this happen. So I keep referring to sort of cyber attacks. I'm going to keep mentioning that as we go through this. But it is worth remembering that actually simple things, even like power cuts, internet outages, etc., they can all impact your ability to access digital information. It might be a bit more straightforward to resolve, hopefully a bit quicker to find a solution, but keep that in your mind as well. Think about the cyber attack side, think about the data breach side, but also think about some of those more simple things that might impact your ability to access digital information. And as John said earlier, think also about your paper records. Again, I'm going to focus a little bit more on the cyber side, but think about actually, if you lost that paperwork, how would you work around it? How would you still provide safe care? What would you do? It might be having a digital backup. Generally with paper records, if something goes amiss, there's less quantity, unless of course we're talking about a fire or a flood or something very, very significant. So again, thinking about that real spectrum of information, how much might you lose? What might the impact be? But just have that sort of on your mind and on your radar. Okay, so on the screen, you'll see a really simple example of a business continuity plan. Probably looks quite familiar, hopefully quite similar to the type of thing maybe you have in place in your organisation already. If you want to see this or use it as a basis, it is available on the Digital Care Hub website, along with all our other templates. Now, going through this process is about guiding you through the thinking process of what you would do if the worst happened. So it fits really nicely with, I noticed on a slide earlier, there was reference of an information asset register. So if you've gone through the toolkit and you've done some of those other pieces of thinking, you already know what information you have, what you hold, how you access it, where it is. So you can look back on some of those documents you've already done and then use that as the foundation of your business continuity plan, because that gives you your flow of information and therefore where it might go awry. So you want to itemize your systems and or devices, what information you access or store using that system or device, and then think through, if I wasn't able to access that or use it, what would the impact be? Then, of course, what you would do. So how would you work around that problem? So a couple of examples. If we were thinking, I don't know, your office phone systems went down, okay, it might be quite irritating. Hopefully isn't critical to you because you can probably still provide safe care. The impact therefore is fairly low and the alternative options might be quite easy to implement. You could use mobile devices. You might be able to remotely access your mailboxes to make sure you're picking up any urgent messages, etc. But what you would want to do is really itemize all of those actions, all of those backup plans, how you would work around it in as much detail as possible. The loss of access to something like a care planning system, however, is likely to be far more critical. So when you're doing this bit of your business continuity plan, what you might want to do is reach out for help from other people around you. So it might be your system provider, perhaps whoever you use for IT, whether that's someone in-house or an external company. Get those experts to help you when you're doing this part of your plan, because they will be able to inform you what backups they run, how you would access those, what support they have in place should you have a problem with this system, how to raise an alarm, things like that. So it's really useful to involve those experts when you're doing this piece of planning. But obviously, like we said, it's what you need to think through is, is actually the practicalities of care delivery. So use that information that you've got from your system providers or whoever, and then think about, okay, how would I get that backed up information? How would I disseminate it to my care staff? How would I risk assess our service users so we can prioritise care? Really think through every step of that process, have it recorded and documented so that you can then carry on safely and deliver appropriate and safe care, even when the system's down. Okay, so a few top tips. First thing is, don't assume that we'll be back to normal in a few days. Obviously, we hope that that's the case, but outages can last longer, and we've seen examples of that within the media. So you might want to think about a short and medium and a long-term plan, perhaps structure it in that way. So for every scenario, you have sort of different timelines as to what you would do and how you do it differently. The next thing is to test your plan. So as with all other aspects of your business continuity plan, you need to know that it works. And I'll just sort of touch on that in a bit more detail in a second. As part of that test, make sure that you record that you've done so, make necessary changes, make sure that you evidence what you've done and you make it visible within your plan. Think about sort of the specific vulnerabilities within your business. They'll be different everywhere. So really think that through in detail, make sure that you include those. And just a couple of other things that sort of aren't on the slide, but that I was thinking about separately. So what you want to think about is not only how you would access the information and how you would provide care in the first instance, but also I think something that's really important to capture is who is out there that can help you. I think I've just made it quite clear, I'm not an IT expert. Chances are you won't be able to resolve a cyber attack without the help of specialist support. So identify at this stage now, who are those people that can help you? How do you make contact with them? Who's there if it's out of hours? All of those different things. Because if you can get that help really quickly, chances are that impacts will be minimised. The longer it's left, the more damage is being done sort of behind the scenes. So make that really clear and have that itemised in your business continuity plan. I would also go as far as thinking through who does what and when. So think through, okay, if it was a weekend, chances are we've got this person on call as a manager, we've got somebody maybe on site, we've got somebody at home, I don't know, whatever your business structure is. How would we activate the plan and how would we make this happen so that we can spring into action, we can minimise damage and we can get the information we need and get it disseminated. And finally, who you need to inform. Now, most of this was covered in Chris's example of the incident reporting. So get that in your plan. Make that part of your process that you are reporting the incident. Who does it go to? The ICO, your commissioners, the Department of Health and Social Care, the people that have been impacted by the data breach. Make sure you've got that in your plan so that you're really well covered. Sorry, I said finally, but that wasn't actually finally, because my other thing is make sure everyone knows about it. And I think this goes with all policies, doesn't it? I think we're all guilty of having those shiny little policies that sit hidden away in a shared folder somewhere. It's no good if people don't know about it. They don't know that it's there. They don't know that they need to be a part of it and they need to action it. So make sure people know it's there, know what they need to do, know what their role is. And I think on a practical note, if we're talking about cyber risk, how on earth do they get hold of this business continuity plan if it's sat on a shared drive somewhere and then that's the bit that gets attacked? So, think through even the sort of minutiae of detail around, maybe you have some paper copies. I know we try and move away from paper, but, how do we get that information? Okay, so testing your business continuity plan. As mentioned, this is incredibly important. We all know that, we all do our fire drills, don't we? This is an example of testing your business continuity plan. If there's a fire, how are we going to get everyone out safely? Which bits are difficult? What do we need in place to help us? This is exactly the same. We're conducting a drill to see what happens if your systems are inaccessible for a certain period of time. Does your backup plan work okay? Can you get the information you needed in a different format? Can you get the help required? Does everyone know what they need to do? Keep this live, keep it real, give it a practice. We know everyone's really busy. It can feel like an absolute nuisance, but it's better to create it, test it and improve it now in a safe and controlled way. Don't wait until disaster strikes, because it's at that point it's critical and it's hard to recover from that. Okay, so this is the final bit for me on business continuity plans. Before we go on to sort of the general support that's available. I just wanted to sort of reference really a real life example, because I think this helps to bring it home a bit. So I work across Oxfordshire, Berkshire and Buckinghamshire, helping care providers in that region with their DSPT and other data and cybersecurity things. And we've worked really closely with Buckinghamshire Council. Basically, they noticed that there had been an increase in the number of cyber incidents across their provider market. They were a bit concerned, and they wanted to sort of really understand what was happening, what was the root of the problem. So they did a review of the incidents. They looked at what had happened, how the issues were resolved, the impact on service delivery, and then they pulled together a number of learning points following that review. One of their key learning points was that where there was a robust business continuity plan in place that covered data and cybersecurity and that was activated appropriately, the long-term damage to the organisation and their service delivery was significantly better than those who either didn't have one, so they hadn't covered data and cybersecurity in their business continuity plan, or they had one, but they didn't use it. It was one of those shiny policies that sat away in the G drive and nobody knew it was there. And they've got first-hand evidence that shows how critical it was to have those plans in place and to implement them in a timely fashion. And it really, really made such a big difference to the outcomes of their service users, basically, and their business, their corporate image and responsibility as well. So on the back of this, we've delivered some training to their services to support them in developing appropriate cyber business continuity plans. But the council actually took it one step further, and they decided that they would audit everyone's business continuity plans. And so they developed a tool to help them do it. We sort of worked alongside them in the background. Basically, what they do is they use this in conjunction with some of their other quality assurance processes to make sure that the business continuity plans are robust. They're going to do their job. And the reason I'm telling you about this is it is available on the Digital Care Hub. So I don't know if we've got any commissioners on the call, maybe. If you're a commissioner, if you're a multi-site provider, this can be fantastic for making sure that your individual sites have got good, localized, robust processes in place. Or if you just want to audit your own process, you might be a single site provider, but you want to make sure that what you've got in place is robust. You can use this tool. And so when you get the slides, I think that's a clickable link and it will take you through to the slide, to the audit tool. So I think that's everything on business continuity plans. Just a couple of final bits. As we've referenced as we've gone through, templates and resources are available on the Digital Care Hub website, not only about the things we've just discussed, but about so much more as well. Anything else you could want to know about digital data and cybersecurity, digitization within social care, it's there. So go and have a look, because there's absolutely masses of resources. As John said earlier, they've been written and developed specifically for social care. So they are really good resources, really accessible. Next thing. There is a free e-learning course. So again, if you think back to what John was saying, our staff are our biggest weapon. So important that they are appropriately skilled and have appropriate knowledge about information, data protection, but also the cybersecurity bit, which is becoming more and more important. We basically discovered that there wasn't really the right training out there. There were bits that covered data protection, but it didn't necessarily cover cybersecurity. And so Digital Care Hub have developed bespoke training for frontline social care workers. It covers everything they need to know about data protection and cybersecurity. It's free. It's absolutely brilliant. It can be done in bite-sized chunks. It's certificated so that you can keep track of it as managers, and it's really brilliant. So take a look at that, because if your staff are doing that, then they will have a really robust foundation of what they need to know, and it sort of fits with your DSPT compliance around appropriate training. So take a look at that if you haven't already. And I think finally, before we go to questions, I think I referenced that I cover Berkshire, Oxfordshire and Buckinghamshire. There are loads of what we call LSOs, so local support organisations, doing the same all around the country. So there are equivalents of me and my team. They're there to help you as care providers, anything you need regarding the DSPT, but actually just digital generally. It's a bit overwhelming and terrifying, and we can generally steer you in the right direction, help you. We can do one-to-one sessions, we can come and see you in person, we can do things virtually, whatever works for you. So follow the link when you get the slides, and you can then find your region and find the people that are there to support you. But there's absolutely loads of help out there, so don't sit back and feel like you're on your own, because there is loads of help. And I think that's everything before we open up for questions.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Fiona, John, and Chris. That was brilliant. Yeah, so this is just some space for, we got quite a bit of time. If anyone has any questions that have not been answered or that you would like to ask to any of us, we're here. We got some time, so please feel free to pop them in the Q&A. In the meantime, I'll say this DSPT In-Depth series, we have covered a few sections of the DSPT already, and this is going to be our last webinar of the year. And then in the new year, we're going to cover staffing and roles, ODS codes, and then we're doing a special webinar on standards exceeded for those that want to complete that section of the DSPT. So with that said, any questions? No? You're letting us off really easily here.
We've stunned everyone into silence.
Okay, great. Well, if there's no more questions, oh, there's one. Let's see. Would CQC also be notified? Is this regarding the data breaches?
Hold on. So no, the CQC are not automatically notified whenever there is a data breach. You would normally identify the CQC where the data breach had a sort of material impact on your service provision, or been in a serious instance. So, if a letter went to the wrong address, you wouldn't normally notify the CQC. But if your care system was down for an extended period of time and it was impacting on your care provision, you'd let CQC know for that. It is covered off. If you have a look in the guidance on the Digital Care Hub, that's got a bit of a section in there about the CQC. So yes, if you do have an incident, have a read of that, and it'll help you with making that decision.
Great, thank you. Another question. Can we register our organization onto the platform, on the platform that those incidents are logged, or would that be separate? So basically, this is part of the DSPT platform or website. So you would have to be registered on the DSPT for this. As a care service, if you're CQC registered, you should complete your DSPT and you should register. So if you haven't done so, I would really encourage you to do it. We have, as we said, loads of support available to complete your DSPT, and that reporting function is through the DSPT website. Yes,
and just to add on that, Marta, just to say, you do need to be an administrator user to be able to report an incident. So if you are on the DSPT and you can't see that report a data breach menu, it's because you're not set up as an admin on there. Somebody in your organisation will be set up as an admin. We deliberately restrict the ability to do that because reporting that you've had a data breach is a serious undertaking. The way of what you're saying. So we didn't want to give that access to everybody. It is only those people who were set up as administrators. But the beauty of doing it through the toolkit, it means that when you send it off, you don't have to say who you are, what sort of organization you are, what address you are, all of that, because we already know that because of your part of your DSPT. So hopefully it saves a bit of time in reporting. And as you'd seen from Chris's demo, We do ask quite a few questions, so we do try and chop off what questions we don't have to ask you, and by having it on the toolkit, then that shaves a few off.
Thanks, John. We have one more question on paper data retention. The question more or less says, it's hard to find the right information. Is there an easy path to timeline on retention of data retention? So the timeline that you should have should be, there's no specific timeline. It should be according to what you need the data for. And it's up to your policies and what you use the data for and what you need it for and for how long to keep that data. So there's no specific timelines. I don't know, John or Chris, Fiona, if you want to add anything else to that.
It's answer. So it does depend. That's the short answer. We'll pop a link into the chat, which is a link to what's called a Record Management Code of Practice, and that has got a list of different record types and how long you've got to keep them. If you hold any NHS or health data, there's some specific rules about those. And then on some of the others, you just need to double check on whether it's like just business correspondence of how you run your business. So there's a date for those. But then also for things like if you've submitted like care plans to local authority. So yeah, it is a case of doing that. If you've got your record of person activity or your information asset register, you can use that as the basis of having a look, and some people will sort of make a note on the end of the column for that, so that they know as part of those on there. Fiona, did you want to add something?
Yeah, sorry, my only other comment on that is just be mindful of any commissioners' requirements for records retention. We've been having a few conversations with local authority commissioners who were slightly concerned in case of conflict around the length of that you're keeping hold of records. So sort of just consider that as well. Look at the guidance John's given, have a word with your commissioners, look at what's in your various contracts, because there might be specific requirements within that as well.
Great, thanks, John, for putting that in the chat.
Yeah, it's a bit of a long link, but
yeah,
that's a records management code of practice. That's got the in there. You just type in what sort of record it is, it'll tell you from within there.
Okay, are there any more questions? We've still got a little bit of time. No? All right. Well, in that case, thank you very much, everyone, for coming to this webinar. You will receive an email via Eventbrite with a link to the slides, the recording, and any resources that we've talked about, and all the links to like booking future webinars and events that we might be hosting. So please keep an eye out. If you have tick the box when you're registering that you want to receive information from us, you will be signed up to the Digital Care Hub newsletter, and also you can be contacted by your local support organization if you have agreed to do so. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and thank you again. Thanks, everyone.